Hey everybody, welcome once again. I'm Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me again as my guest, Talmadge Rodger Varnado III. How's it going, Talmadge?
It's going pretty good.
Very good, very good. Thank you for joining me again.
Yes, sir.
Thank all of you for joining me again. So we're going to, instead of analyzing a particular movie, we're going to stay on the Denzel topic. Talmadge and I are going to be talking about our top 10 best Denzel Washington performances. So let me clarify, though. We're not necessarily talking about our favorite performances, nor are we talking about what we think are his best movies or our favorite movies. This is a list of, my opinion, his 10 best performances. Talmadge's opinion, Denzel's 10 best performances. So keep that in mind. You may go through our list and you may think, well, I like this movie better. I like that movie better. Possibly so, but that's a different category.
I promise you will with my list. I can guarantee it.
Well, on that note, I will say, too, I do not know Talmadge's list. He does not know mine. We've purposely kept that from one another. So we're going to be revealing that to each other on camera here. So I'll kick us off. I'm going to start with my number 10. My number 10 best Denzel Washington performance is the 1987 feature film Cry Freedom. A lot of people didn't know much about this one, kind of went under the radar. At the time, he was pretty much just known for his role as the doctor on St. Elsewhere. He was not yet Denzel. He was still Denzel Washington. Cry Freedom, 1987, starring Denzel Washington and Kevin Kline. He was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. First nomination. And if you hear me say nominated or won, unless I specify otherwise, I'm talking about the Academy Award. Okay. So from here on, if I don't say Academy Award, if you hear me say nominated or he won, you can assume that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm referring to. Cry Freedom did a very good job, had a South African accent, was pretty unique. It was kind of the first time I think he got some people's attention of, okay, this guy's not just the doctor on St. Elsewhere. We could kind of see him a little bit differently. I heard him tell kind of a funny story because it was his first nomination. He was at the Academy Awards, and Sean Connery was nominated that same year for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for The Untouchables. And Denzel said, yeah, I'm just excited to be there. I'm sitting in the audience. Sean Connery gets up to present an award, and everybody just stands to their feet, just explosive ovation. And I thought, man, this man gets that reaction just for getting up to present. It's time to get the coats. I'm not winning this. And Sean Connery did, in fact, win the Academy Award that year for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for The Untouchables. So yeah, Cry Freedom comes in at number 10 for me. At number 9, I have The Manchurian Candidate. 2004 is a remake of a movie from earlier, I think in the 60s.
The original was great too.
Yeah, they're both very good. Denzel in this one, he plays a former Gulf War soldier that starts becoming very paranoid. And not just from your normal PTSD. I won't ruin everything for you, but also had very good performances from Meryl Streep and Liev Schreiber. And one thing I loved about Denzel in this movie is you don't often see him playing this paranoid, borderline unhinged character. He's usually very in control, very precise,
very measured.
And the Manchurian Candidate, he still had layers of that, but you also saw him really starting to unravel and seeming like he was out of his mind when he was onto something that was going on. So I loved seeing him play a little bit different type of a character. So that's why I've got that one as my number 9. I'm going to kick it over to Talmadge now. Why don't you give us your 10, 9, 8, and 7?
All right. Well, my number 10 is going to be a shocker for everyone, I'm sure. But I'm actually going with, and again, it's not one of his better performances necessarily. It wasn't even a great movie necessarily. But I'm going with Carbon Copy. And the reason why I'm doing that, there's a specific reason for it. It's made in 1981. Mm-hmm. As far as I know, it was his first feature film.
I believe you're correct.
Just to see him that young was a shock to the system a little bit. And also, I've never seen him play a character since that was quite like that. It had a balance of humor to it, but also he knew how to be serious as well. And I don't even know if that movie could be shot the way it was shot back then today. There's a racial tone to it that they might not be able to address. But I thought at the end the message was still really good. Mm-hmm. And also, it's the only chance I'm ever going to get to mention the movie Carbon Copy, so why not?
Why not go ahead and throw it in? Okay, valid reason.
So that's really it. Number 9, and this is really quick. Mo Better Blues. Anytime he collaborated with Spike.
Yeah.
And in this, I'll admit it might be Spike, because Spike always shoots with color. He always knows what angles to shoot. He just shoots differently than some, and so I was taken in by the movie. But Denzel gave a steady performance like he always does.
Yeah.
So I would go with that one as well. And then my number 8, I would go with He Got Game.
Oh.
Largely because I'm a basketball fan more than
another Spike Lee collaboration.
Yeah, another Spike Lee collaboration. And Denzel carried the movie. He truly did. He carried them all, but this one I felt highlighted him. It's not as talked about as some of his other movies.
Yeah.
But I thought he was solid performance. And again, the collaboration with Spike. Mm-hmm. So anytime they're married, it's to me a good
Those
pick.
two guys, yeah. And I'll real quick say this. Ray Allen was very good in that movie.
There's no,
for a professional athlete who, to my knowledge, had no professional acting training, and for a guy that was just coming out of his rookie year, such a young guy, playing a highly talented high school basketball recruit. When I first heard of that movie and I heard Ray Allen was in it, I assumed, okay, they just needed a basketball player. He's mostly shooting jumpers and probably has a little dialogue. No, he had a lot of dialogue. He helped carry the movie. He held his own with Denzel. I was genuinely impressed with Ray Allen.
If you can hold your own with Denzel and you're an established actor,
yes, that's something to be said.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm surprised he hasn't been in much else.
I don't know why he hasn't. He must just not
good.
want to.
Yeah, he was.
But he was that good. I was like, my gosh, why doesn't he do a lot? Especially now that he's retired. I kind of thought he could legit just transition to a career.
I could see them. Acting. I could see them doing a remake of that movie and him playing
the dad.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I could really see
I'd love to see him and Denzel collaborate on something else at this age too. Just get them together again. Anyway, sorry, don't mean to derail your list there, but
we'll do the Ray Allen chat next time.
Maybe so.
And then my number 7. Who's where we're at? Okay, I'm gonna go with Soldier Story.
Another very early one.
Very early in his career. Historical significance.
Yeah.
Shot, directed really well. And again, he was just solid. A lot of times with Denzel, he just puts in a solid performance. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he can go over the top if he needs to, but he's just a steady, solid performer. I thought it told a great story.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's on my list.
Yeah. Well, and I'll add to that just quickly too. He was so young, but you saw a level of maturity in that character beyond his years and beyond his experience level. It's one thing to be, I think he was maybe close to 30 at that time, but he'd only really been acting professionally for a few years. Yeah. It wasn't like Rick Schroeder or some of these people have a career as a child and now they're in their 30s. Denzel was still relatively early on his journey, and
and I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good point. I mean, that's the first time he really showed to me. I mean, because he'd been in other movies and he was good, but this was the first time, even though he wasn't a lead necessarily in this movie, I could see him in that leading role. He could carry a movie.
You could see that he had that quality.
Yes.
Yeah, I concur. When I watched Soldier Story, of course, it was after I watched it after he was Denzel. I kind of went back and watched it, but I did the same thing. I was like, for him being relatively unknown, you can see what he has in that role. You can look at that and go, okay, this guy's got something that he can expand on. All right, so I'm going to now do my number 8, my number 7, my number 6, my number 5.
Okay.
We're doing things a little unconventionally here. I'm uniquely unique, and we're gonna make this unique. So for my number 8, I have Roman J. Israel Esquire, released in 2017. He was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Kind of went not talked about a whole lot. And another reason I like this movie, similar to what I talked about in The Manchurian Candidate, you saw a different side of Denzel.
Okay.
He wasn't necessarily in Roman J. Israel Esquire. He was not the guy that's going to walk into the room and be the most powerful person in every room that he's in. He was more timid and kind of nervous and even a little bit nerdy. There's a scene where some random guy confronts him on a sidewalk and they get in a fight, and Denzel cowers and shimmies to the ground. And I had to remind myself, I'm not watching some of his other characters.
Right.
This is Roman J. Ezra Esquire. It's not necessarily, because it was a little stunning at first. You think Denzel's going to do something. I'm not watching Robert McCall. This is Roman J. Ezra Esquire.
But it sounds like it won you over, which tells you how good of an actor he is. Because you have this vision of him. He's not playing that same vision, but by the end of the movie, you saw it.
Not only did it win me over, I appreciated it so much because it was so different. So
I'm going to go run out and see that one today because I haven't seen it yet.
Well, see, it's underappreciated. He and Colin Farrell, it's pretty darn good. His performance, definitely worth watching. For my number 7, I have The Tragedy of Macbeth, 2021 feature film, which again, he was nominated for Best Actor in the Leading Role. This one I loved. He's taking on a Shakespearean story, okay?
Which is never easy.
That's my first point. It's real easy to mess up Shakespeare because it's so challenging. I haven't done a full film of it, but I've done some Shakespearean scenes in class. I've had to memorize some monologues and deliver some scenes. And if you don't get the exact cadence down and those exact words spoken the exact way, you ruin it, and it's laughable, and it's a joke. So it's real easy to mess up Shakespeare because most people don't go around in their everyday life speaking in that manner, speaking those exact words. Denzel embodied that character, sounded like he spoke that way every day. It sounded that natural, commanding presence, and the movie was shot in black and white. That has nothing to do with his performance, but just I really liked the movie overall, and one of his better performances. I consider it top 10, obviously. I consider it number 7, so I've got it there on my list. That's The Tragedy of Macbeth. Moving on to my number 6. Another one that I think is underappreciated from 1999, The Hurricane. He was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. And I had seen this years ago, but I rewatched it because I pretty much knew it's going to be in my top 10. But when I was preparing my list, I rewatched it to decide where I wanted to rank it.
Okay.
And I was reminded of just how good it is. Man, that's a good movie based on a true story. He plays a guy that's imprisoned for something that he says he didn't do. And Denzel was just really powerful, but he also had some vulnerable moments. And there's a scene where he's in the cell and he's mad and yelling, he's punching the walls and screaming, and the guard comes, and I'm going to improvise here, I don't remember the exact dialogue, but he basically said, "Send somebody else through that door. I'll kill the next one coming through. I'll kill every one of you. Y'all don't know who you're messing with." And he's punching the walls and getting, there was that intensity where you just knew this guy's a bulldog behind the cage. But then he had some very vulnerable moments as well. It's a very layered performance. Well, Liev Schreiber was in that one as well.
And I would say personally, nothing to do with his performance, but him doing that movie made me want to find out about the real story.
Yes.
And so sometimes I think that's forgotten in movies.
Yeah.
He did such a good job, I wanted to find out who the real hurricane was.
And that speaks a lot to what he brought that movie. You may not have known Reuben Hurricane Carter before. I know I didn't.
I didn't either.
But when I saw that movie, I was kind of the same. I was like, okay, man, this guy's got a story, and he helped really bring that to life.
No question.
So The Hurricane is my number 6. Now, here's my number 5. And I will say this. All of these are great performances. From here on, for me, my top 5, it was so hard to put these in order. It genuinely was. Y'all only know how much time I spent processing where I ranked these. And the remaining 5 on my list, for most actors, would be the pinnacle of their career.
Says a lot.
It does. And I'm not talking about the Daniel Day-Lewis's and the Robert De Niro's and Jack Nicholson's. But for a lot of well-established actors who make a good living and are pretty big names, any one of these 5 performances that I'm about to be mentioning, in my opinion, would be the pinnacle of their career. And so the fact that he has 5 of these, and even The Hurricane would be some guy's best work. So anyway, number 5, and then I'll kick it back over to Talmadge. My number 5 from 1989 is Glory. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. And some of you may be thinking, well, that's one of the ones he won for. Why is it your number 5? That speaks to how good all the other ones on my list are. And the biggest reason that Glory's not ranked higher for me is that he was a part of an ensemble cast. And when y'all hear me mention my top 4, one thing that those other 4 have in common was he was the centerpiece of each of those movies. He was the man carrying that film. In Glory, it's a huge ensemble cast. He was a soldier amongst many soldiers. Some of them were extras. He also had Morgan Freeman, Cary Elwes, Andre Braugher, and a very young Matthew Broderick, who was very good in that role too. He had done Ferris Bueller's Day Off, War Games, I think Biloxi Blues. This was the first time it was more of a serious adult role. You saw him kind of having to be in control of some things.
Totally different from what he had played before, and did an excellent
And he
job.
was very good, yeah. But Denzel, we talked about Cry Freedom and the Soldier Story. I think Glory, really for most people, is when they said, man, this guy's got something. Because while it was a supporting role, he's the only one that was nominated. It was a Best Picture nominee. He was the only actor that got nominated and won for supporting actor. And I'll wrap it up by saying this. There's a scene where his character gets whipped for something he did. He takes his shirt off and he's got all these scars on his back, which tells you that it's not the first time he's been disciplined. But he did what he felt was right, and he just literally, I'm going to stand here and take my licks. So he stood there, got whipped over and over, and he just stared Matthew Broderick in the eyes, never even spoke a word, barely flinched, and then you see a single teardrop. Very powerful stuff. We're going to pause for just a moment. Talmadge and I'll be right back. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Greetings. My name is Elmer E. Elmore, and I have a confession. Just last week, I was down by the creek wearing my favorite breeches, and I lost my balance and slipped in the mud. I falled right on my rear end and got mud all over my favorite breeches. As I struggled to stand back to my feet, I immediately realized that Mama would not be happy if she seen all that mud on my breeches. So I invented this. The Elmer E. Elmore eraser. It looks and functions just like a pencil eraser, but this here one's for erasing mud off of breeches. Pick yourself one up today before Mama finds out.
The Elmer E. Elmore eraser is currently in the idea stage of development. All right, we are back going through our top 10 Denzel Washington performances. I'm going to kick it back over to you, Talmadge. I believe your number 6 is next.
Yes, and your last movie was perfect segue.
Okay.
My number 6 is Glory.
Okay.
For a lot of the reasons.
First overlap we had.
Yeah, first one. For a lot of the reasons you mentioned, so I won't do a lot of rehash, but I will say this. Not knowing it at the time, because obviously this is one of his older movies, but it's the one role where he's cocky. He's more arrogant than you see him. Now there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
It's a justifiable reason, but you don't really see him in that light to be that brash. He's always confident, but more of a quiet confidence.
He's confident, but he's not always cocky like he was.
This guy was brash, and in that setting, being brash at that time, at that place in history, showed an awful lot. And then, of course, you highlighted the scene that really brought it all together. So I can't really add much to that. And then beyond that, I'm going to go with American Gangster.
Number 5, American Gangster.
I'm going to go with American Gangster.
Okay.
Admittedly, looking back at that movie, it wasn't. When I watched it recently,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it didn't stand the test of time. It's not. I don't think one of his better performances, but again,
But
very
you got it at number 5.
solid.
So you must
Yeah,
think so.
but that goes to what we're saying. This
Yeah.
guy's so good
Yeah.
that he can just. I'm not going to say mail in a performance because he doesn't do that, but he can give a standard, solid performance, and it's better than most.
Yeah.
And I thought.
Yeah.
And I had some quarrel with the movie, the way it was written, but again, we're talking about him specifically.
Right.
Another role where he carried it, and you got to see him in a Robin Hood type role in a sense. As vicious as he was,
Yeah.
like most drug dealer movies, he gives back to his community because
Yeah.
he's got to keep up that image. So I thought it was interesting to see how he
Yeah.
can be so vengeful in one scene, but handing out turkeys the next.
Right,
And so
right.
that always, I'm drawn to that as well.
Okay.
My next one would be The Equalizer. Really, you could put them all together and just make them one.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to break it down and put 1, 2, and 3 all on the list. Same character arc.
Yeah.
Love the action. And again, I'm not saying that might be one of his better movies or the trilogy itself.
Yeah.
But it's personally what I liked. And it established him as really an action star.
Yeah, because he's mostly known for drama.
Right. And
Understandably so, but
And to see him in that vein is compelling to me. And we've already talked about how great the series is.
Right.
So that would be next on my list.
that was your number 4, right?
That's correct.
All right. So what's your number 3? Let's go ahead and.
I'm good with Malcolm X. Again, the Spike Lee connection,
Yeah.
the historical value. I like this one a lot too because of the years that it covered. You saw him as a younger Malcolm all the way through the end of
Yes.
his life. And I think that might be one of the first movies where you see him, in that vein across that time span, see the character development, the growth. And you could see him being a Malcolm type character because he's very charismatic himself. So he fit that role perfectly.
Yeah,
In fact,
he did.
at that time, now there's other actors that can pull it off now, maybe. But at that
Maybe.
time,
I don't know. Maybe.
yeah, at that time he was clearly, if you were going to make a Malcolm X movie, it had to be Denzel.
If Spike hadn't cast him, the movie would never
Exactly.
worked.
And so for that reason, he just flat out delivered.
Yeah. I do concur. All right. So that was your number 3, Malcolm X. All right. So I'm going to go. I left off at my number 5 was Glory. I'm going to do my number 4, number 3, number 2, and then I'll kick it back over to you. So again, these were real hard for me to rank. But at number 4, I have the 2002 feature film Flight. He was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Daniel Day-Lewis won that year for Lincoln, and I always wonder, if you're nominated and then you realize Daniel Day-Lewis is in a movie that year, do you just get blisteringly mad? Like, why couldn't we have released mine next year? Like, really? You got to put me in this guy does one movie every, 8 years, but now now I'm nominated against him?
Second to him is first every other year.
Pretty much. Denzel might could have won for Flight if it had been another year. Anyway, he was nominated. I love the movie. I thought he was brilliant. And there's so many layers. I could talk about Flight for a much longer time than I'm going to do right here. But one thing I loved about it was when I first heard about it and I saw the first preview, to me it looked more like an action movie that didn't have a whole lot of substance. It's about a guy landing a plane, whatever. I watched the movie and I'm like, man, if they had cast a lesser actor, it was written very well. I'll start with that. But if they had cast a lesser actor in that role, it would have been a good movie. It really speaks to Denzel's greatness that he took a very good script and a good character and made it great. And he, in my opinion, his performance elevated the entire quality of that movie.
I could see that.
He was just that good. He was playing a guy that was an alcoholic and struggling, and he gets into an argument with the lady early in the movie, and he's blaming, telling her, oh, you go to these AA meetings and whatever, and you're blaming everybody else. And then she's getting mad at him, and he's like, yeah, well, you know what? I choose to drink. I own it. I am an alcoholic. I got a 15-year-old son who won't talk to me. Why? Because I choose to drink. And he's out of control. But he's like, I'm not blaming the world. It is my fault.
He owns who he is.
And then, man, the ending was so powerful when he was on trial and on the stand. And first of all, great ensemble cast. John Goodman, Don Cheadle, Bruce Greenwood, Melissa Leo, who was also in the Equalizer, when she's questioning him and he's trying to lie his way out of it, he finally, because he's telling him he didn't drink on those dates or whatever, and you just see it start to wear in, and then he finally, and this may be a little bit paraphrasing, but he finally says, on that day I drank to excess. I was drunk. I'm drunk now because I'm an alcoholic. And you get the sense that that's the first time he's maybe even said those words. Like he knows it, but in that moment he just broke down.
Saying it's whole different.
And then it cuts to him leading a support group in prison, and he flat out says, I just couldn't tell one more lie. It's like I had reached my limit. Mm-hmm. And I just, man, sorry if I just ruined the movie for any of you, but go watch it anyway. Flight is awesome. Awesome performance. I just say it was so much better than I expected it to be. Like I said, I thought, okay, I'll watch it. It's Denzel, but it doesn't look like it has that much depth until I watched it. So,
you're going to make me watch it again.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Right?
I rewatched it to know where to rank it, and it reminded me, just like with the Hurricanes, like, man, it reminded me of how great that movie is. So that's my number 4. My number 3, and I'll just give you a hint as to what it is. 2001 feature film, Training Day, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor in the leading role. There's a scene in the car with he and Ethan Hawke where he laughs at Ethan Hawke in that rhythm. So for years, Talmadge and I'll do that laugh, and I just call it the Alonzo laugh. Because Denzel's character is Alonzo
know
Harris.
What you mean.
Oh, indubitably, he needs no other. If I say the Alonzo laugh, and Talmadge and I both like Training Day so much, when we worked together, we would often have full conversations where we just quoted lines from that movie back and forth. Nobody around us ever had a clue what we were talking about. Didn't make sense. Sometimes they would ask for explanations and they didn't get it. We
liked it that way.
Oh, purposely. We purposely did not explain it. And at a certain point, there was like, I don't know what they're talking about. It's just any question. But Training Day, I got as my number 3. Very powerful performance. He plays against type because he's playing this corrupt cop. He plays a lot of very noble characters. This one was not. Although, as you and I have talked about, as corrupt and violent and crazy as Alonzo is, he makes a lot of sense sometimes. He'll justify his sinful, idiotic decisions, and you have to go, man, okay, from a certain warped perspective, I kind of understand where this guy's coming from.
I do like it, though, because as off as he was, and he was very off, you could understand how he got there.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see, obviously not Denzel playing the role, but another actor playing him earlier in life to really see that path.
Kind of see Alonzo on his own Training Day.
Exactly.
What turned him into the Alonzo
Because you could tell he was a good cop at one point. I think he even referenced that. At one point, he
tells Jake, he said, I was just like you.
Yeah.
And his friend Roger, played by Scott Glenn, even said, you were just like him, Alonzo, same stupid look on your face and everything. So
it makes you want to see that story, yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
And he and Ethan Hawke were brilliant together. And I heard Antoine Fuqua saying that a lot of the stuff was improv. He said a lot of what Denzel did was not on the page. And he said, and I don't want to, there was something he would say to Ethan Hawke, and I'm going to just hint to it. I don't want to say it. But they're in the car, and he would laugh and say, and say, that was not in the script. Antoine Fuqua was kind of, but he said Ethan just busted out laughing the first time Denzel said it, and Antoine was like, no, that's great. Roll with it. So he does it several times.
I've got a quick backstory to that, and I just found this out last week. I saw something online. When Ethan Hawke auditioned, he kind of got frustrated with Denzel because they were scene partners in the audition, and Denzel went totally off script. And Ethan Hawke tried to improv it, but he's like, I did horribly.
Like, what are you doing?
I couldn't follow. Why is this guy doing this to me? He felt like he's being sabotaged. He got the role anyway, and he was shocked that he got it. So don't know why Denzel did that.
Interesting.
But just a side note
I did not know
Yeah.
that. That's very interesting. And then the whole thing about, I think this part was in the script, to catch the wolf, to protect the sheep, you got to catch the wolf. Catch the wolf, you got to be wolf. But the howling was Denzel. That was improv.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the King Kong line was not on the page. Antoine said, no, that was him. He just went into this tirade. And after the first take, he looked at me and said, I don't know where that came from, but I hope you got it because that was it.
And it's
that
iconic.
was it.
It's iconic.
It's the most iconic moment in the movie.
Well, besides shoe program.
Besides shoe, well, that was part of the speech,
Right.
though. Shoe program led up to the King Kong ain't got nothing on me. And the thing I loved about his character too, and then we'll move on. He was so arrogant that in his mind, he thought he was going to win it at any cost.
Oh, he believed everything he said.
He believed everything he said, and even when Jake walked away and he was, daring, shoot me right here, Jake. It ain't like stepping on ants. You can't do it. And then even when the whole neighborhood turned on him, he was yelling at him. He looked around and he said, it don't matter. I'm winning anyway. I can't lose. And he believed that.
Really did.
And even when what happened at the end, he still, up until the last minute, believed somehow he's going to pull this off.
Yeah. No question.
Confidence bordering on just out of control narcissism. But that's what I love about the character. And then you and I have talked about this before. Denzel only agreed to do that movie if it ended the way it did.
Yes.
He said, I'm only going to play it if we end it this way. That's the only way I'll play a guy like that. So anyway, that's my number 3. I'm going to do my number 2, and then I'll kick it back over to you.
All right.
My number 2, and for me, this is a very close second. Like this one, I could have almost gone with as my number 1. And again, for most actors, this would be their pinnacle. The 2016 feature film, Fences. He was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He also directed the film. And when you play the lead actor and also direct, it is substantially more work.
I can imagine.
I do actually know. I've done it once so far. Well, twice. One short film, one feature film. Substantially more work. You got so much more on your mind. And, man, he was good. And he was in his early 60s when he did Fences. So part of me, when I'm watching this movie for the first time, I was thinking to myself, in reality, Denzel Washington is at an age where a lot of people in our world are thinking about nothing more than, well, now I'm retired, so I can just go fishing and play with the grandkids. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Here he is taking on one of the most challenging roles of his career. Does not need to. Could do whatever he wants. He could sit back. He could, first of all, he could just retire and never do another
Right.
movie. Or he could just say, well, from now on, I'm going to be a producer. I'll invest in some films. I'll help get some things started. I'm going to take it easy because I can. He's taken on one of the most challenging roles he's ever done in his early 60s. And the thing I loved about it, about his character, there were some moments where he went through a series of different emotions all in one scene. He would fluctuate from laughing and joking, being foolish, to getting really intense and serious, to being calm and quiet. And I could tell you a story and just tell you the words, and it would make sense and you would understand it. But if I tell you a story, and Talmadge, wait to hear this one, man. So last week, here's what we did, and I'm going to be real vague because I'm making this up as I go, but man, wait till you find out what I did last week. Oh, I was going along, and they didn't know what was coming. Here I come, and they weren't ready for me. But let me tell you, man, when I got there, here was a metaphorical bull staring me down and snorting. And I looked that thing in the eyes and I decided, you're not going to get the best of me. You're staring me down. You're going to charge, I'm going to charge. And that thing came charging at me, Talmadge, and I showed it who was boss. I grabbed that bull by the literal horns. I hornswoggled him around, kicked him in the rear end, and off he went. And I learned in that moment, you can come at me with what you want to. I'm going to come out on top. And that was what I did last Wednesday. Some of his monologues in Fences were similar to that. There was these emotional fluctuations within these huge chunks of dialogue. And literally, as an actor, I'm watching it going, oh my gosh, man, this guy, to take on a role like that when he could be just kicking back and relaxing. If I didn't already respect him and think of him on an iconic level, that movie would have done it.
I can see that.
So that's my number 2. I'm going to kick it back over. Why don't you give us your number 2 and your number 1?
And before I do that, I will say out of all the movies we've talked about, Fences is the one that's not on my list.
Oh, wow.
That was the biggest struggle for me.
Okay.
Because a lot of my list is more of just personally what I was going through and personally what I like. But when you're talking actual performances, it was really hard to leave that off the list. So kudos to you because it was a heck of a movie. And it's something I could watch again easily.
Oh, yeah.
But to get back on... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I might go home and watch it again today just because, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, go ahead.
Fantastic. And again, my number 2 is commercially successful. Was not the most challenging role, but I just loved the feel good of the movie itself. And of course, that's Remember the Titans. Plus, I'm a Titan fan, so different Titans.
Tennessee Titans, but okay, yeah.
No, again, because it what it meant in history, the story that it told, how he crafted himself as he was tough, hard, and strong on those young men because he had to be. And to see the other perspective of, I'm gonna go ahead when he took when the safety moved from defense to offense because he couldn't handle what Denzel was doing. The other coach,
it was the running back.
Okay, I thought it was the safety.
And he fumbled, and then he went to play outside linebacker. So kind of had it backwards. Exactly. Donald Faison was on the play.
And he's excellent as well, by the way.
He was.
In a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought that was compelling because they both had reasons for doing it, what they did, and they were both right. They were both right. You could hook them both up to a lie detector test, and they both passed because they felt like they were right. But the whole movie was just compelling. The little girl was fantastic. But anyway,
she was Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah, she was
good.
fantastic. But loved Coach Boone in that role.
And I will say he gave some great motivational speeches in that movie. Some of Herman Boone's speeches and the things he imparted on these young men. Also, a very young Ryan Gosling in that movie. Denzel was very good, gave some very compelling speeches, and was a very likable character for the most part because you understood why he was hard on those guys.
Exactly, and so that's the reason why for me. And again, the historical significance as well.
Yeah.
And then finally, the one you just talked about. You know what I'm going to say. It's Training Day all day for me. I think he would even admit maybe not his best performance, but so glad he got rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. That was almost an accumulation of his career award. Although he was strong and solid.
Yeah.
It was just the catchphrases that we repeat in our daily lives.
The fact that we quoted so much tells you how it impacted us.
There's no way I couldn't put that number 1.
Think how hard it was for me to only put it at number 3, but anyway.
I probably watched that movie more than any movie in my entire life, besides maybe The Wizard of Oz. But other
I
than
watched
that,
Training Day yesterday. Fun fact.
So that's my number 1. So our lists have been quite different so far, but I'm so glad because I think you focused more on his actual just act. I will admit your list was more of his best performances. Yeah. He was really, really strong, where mine were just the movies I liked best. Yeah. But I can't argue with your list so far because, especially Fences, some of the movies you brought up, I'm like, okay, I need to go back and see that because he was that good. But making a Denzel list, I mean, you really can't go wrong.
No, well, that's why I wanted to do this topic. I was like, you and I together doing these, you can't go wrong. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. And so now my number 1 is one that you've already mentioned, Malcolm X. To this day, I believe his best performance. Truly an iconic performance, and this was the one that really took him from being Denzel Washington to being Denzel. He had won the Academy Award for Supporting Actor for Glory. He had done Mo Better Blues. Malcolm X, he's playing one of the most iconic figures in our history. And, like you said, you see this arc of this young Malcolm and the crowd he runs with and he gets in jail. And you see the way his mindset begins to change and be formed. And then he's given these powerful speeches that Denzel is so good at in real life. And he just poured himself into that role and really became that character. And it has stood the test of time. It was 1992. It's over 30 years ago. Still such an iconic performance. And I'll say this fun fact. You talked about Training Day maybe not being his best. So he's won 2 Academy Awards so far, Glory and Training Day. I actually, as much as I loved the Alonzo character, as much as I love the Alonzo laugh, I actually don't think he should have won for Training Day. And you may be shocked to hear me say that, but here's why. While he was great, I actually think Russell Crowe should have won that year for A Beautiful Mind. I think it was a deeper and more layered character.
I agree.
Russell Crowe, however, won the year before for Gladiator. So I know the voters were just like, well, we don't want to do that 2 years in a row. Denzel, kind of an accumulation. Let's give it to him. Me personally, if the same guy wins 5 years in a row, if it's justifiable, if he gave the best performance, award the guy 5 years in a row. Russell Crowe, as good as he was in Gladiator, I don't think he should have won that year because I think Tom Hanks should have won for Castaway. But Tom Hanks had already won twice. Right. So it's kind of a domino effect, in my opinion. And that's how it goes. But yeah, if Russell Crowe hadn't won for Gladiator, he would have won for A Beautiful Mind, and Denzel wouldn't have won for Training Day. It doesn't take away what Denzel did. Still brilliant, but I do think Denzel should have won for both Malcolm X and Fences.
I can see that.
Malcolm X, he lost out to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman, who the voters realized we should have awarded this guy 20 years ago. He should have won for each of the first two Godfathers, and he didn't. Well, we have to give it to him now, so he gets that one. And then Fences, if Denzel hadn't already won twice, because Denzel won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Fences. Casey Affleck won the Academy Award for Manchester by the Sea. And Casey Affleck was very good, but it was a case of this guy hadn't won. Denzel's Denzel. He's won twice.
Kind of like the NBA MVP award. You can't give it to Jordan every
right.
year.
You got to give it to Michael Jordan every year. Not going to give it to LeBron every year. That's exactly what it is. It's like this guy was amazing, but this guy was almost as good and he hadn't won it yet. Let's go ahead. That's pretty much exactly what it is. So anyway, those are our top 10 Denzel performances. I love that we both had no idea what the other one's list was going to be. And interestingly, there was not a lot of overlap. I was expecting there to possibly be a little bit. I knew Training Day would be very high for both of us because we talk about it too much. We used to, like I said, we would have conversations at work, and sometimes you would even text me on my days off. You would text me a line for Training Day. I'd text you back, and we'd spend an hour texting back and forth with Training Day quotes. Just because.
I do remember.
And what's up with you program? All right. We will wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, if you liked it, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Help me continue to bring content to you and alert you when I do upload new stuff. For Talmadge Rodger Varnado III, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Y'all have a great week and laugh like Alonzo if you feel like it.